In this video, you will learn what email is, limitations of email, why use email, anatomy of an email address, anatomy of an email messages, email etiquette, and more. So stay tuned and watch to the end of this video. Now, what is an email? The email here is the short form, but it's called electronic mail. Is a process of sending and receiving messages over the internet. Okay, so the email or electronic mail is similar to the traditional postal system commonly referred to as snail mail. So why do you have to use email, right? Using email is more advantageous than using the traditional mail, which is commonly referred to as snail mail. So what you see here are some of the reasons why you use or why you need to use an email. So the number one here is to send the message to many recipients. Okay, I'm going to show more explanation or demonstrate this practically so you can say it right towards the end of this particular video. So yes, you use email so you can send the same message to many recipients. You can forward the same message to many people without retyping them. Okay, but if you're to send message using the traditional postal system, you trust me, you have to retype, you know, print those messages, or you use pen to write it out and put it in different envelopes and send it to different people. But that is different when it comes to using the email. Okay, so the email is quick, only takes a couple of minutes for the person to receive it. All right, so you can send attachments such as electronic documents, images, videos, sounds, and more stuff. Okay, so the email can be sent anywhere in the world within couple of minutes. So in this case, when we talk about the snail mail, you will believe with me that when you use the snail mail, you can send a letter or document and it will stay for, let's say, minimum two. Now we have speed posts. Okay, so some speed posts, if you're sending it across to another part of the country, it's not going to stay less than 2 days. Okay, but the traditional emailing system that we had before, it could stay months. Now, the last one that I have here is that emails are used as contracts. In this case, an example is you can sign up contracts. You can sign up a document, attach it, and send to an organization, and it's seen as being valid. Okay, so these are some of the reasons that you use email. If you have more reasons why emails are being used, please drop your comment in the comment section and I will engage with you over there. Now we have the limitations of email. Okay, so here my number one point here is that email can become time consuming for answering complicated questions and misunderstandings. In this case, you agree with me that, especially when you work in an organization where you have to reply several emails, especially during the time of COVID, actually made this even worse when people had to stay at home and work from their individual homes. You notice that there are several emails that you need to reply to, and this has carried on to, I would say, post COVID, but right, people are still using heavily using the email, so it can be time consuming and sometimes one can misunderstand the content of the email. So this is why it's important when you're sending an email, you need to make it as clear as possible so that the recipient would understand what it is you're trying to say. Okay, so the next one here is email can compromise the security of an organization because sensitive information can be easily distributed accidentally or deliberately. Again, the reason for this is when you're using an email, be sure that are you are sure of what you're sending. Check what you have written out before you forward or email to anybody. Okay, now the next point that I have here is email can become impersonal or misunderstood. Good. I think that relates to the number one point. If your message is not that clear, people can misunderstand you. Okay, this is quite different when you're talking to person face to face or on phone. The person can ask you questions and you explain in detail what it is you are trying to say. So use words that are easy to understand. Do not use words that are cumbersome or words that you do not really understand or do not really tell your story, so that your recipient would not misunderstand what it is you're trying to say. Now we have the next point here. The sender may send viruses and malware, okay, through attachment if recipient does not scan it. Okay, so these are some of the limitations. People can send virus across to the next person, so you need to be sure of what it is you're trying to open. So this also relates to the last point here, which is hacking, the act of breaking into computer security. Okay, so in this case, after an email is sent and before it is received by the desired recipient, so the email bounces between servers across the world. Okay, hence, during that period, the email can be hacked by a professional hacker. Okay, so a lot of things happens when you when you finish writing your email, you click the send. A lot of things happens between the time you click the send and the moment it lands in the inbox of the recipient. So it goes through a lot of servers across the world. So in that time or that process, a professional hacker can get access to your email and perform whatever magic he needs to do there. So these are some of the limitations when it comes to emailing. Okay, if you have more points that you know, please drop in the comment section and we will take it up from there. So here we have the anatomy of an email address. Okay, so some people who are just, this lesson will be very useful for people who are just starting to use the internet, who are just starting to use the email. So this particular video will be important for you, or you will find it interesting. So there are three parts of an email address. So this is an email address, for instance, for this particular example. Now we have the username. So the username, sorry, okay, I went back. So the username here stopped at James. The username here is James. Okay, it's unique name that identifies the recipient or the sender. Okay, so anybody who is sending an email must have an email address. Okay, so it's a unique name that identifies the sender or recipient of an email. Okay, now we do have the @ here, as you can see. So this is where we have the @ the @ is pronounced as @ in English, literally, yes, and it separates the username and the domain name. So the domain name starts from the gmail.com. Okay, gmail.com is the domain name. So let's go back down here where we have the domain name. Okay, so here we have the domain name, which is gmail.com, right? Or maybe I should explain from there, gmail.com. So the first part, the domain name has two parts, which is Gmail separated by .com. Now the first part, which is the Gmail, okay, tells you the name of the company, represents the company's name. Okay, so when you hear Gmail, you would know that this is a Google Mail. This is the name of the company, is either Gmail or it's a Google Mail. Right, it represents the company. Now, the second part of a domain name or domain is the .com. Now, the .com represents the top level domain. The top level domain is separated with the .com. Okay, so I've come across people trying to ask me, what does that mean, .com and all of that. So with this explanation, you would be able to explain what this means. The username is the name of the person which is unique to the sender, or the recipient of an email. And then we have the @ which separates the username from the domain name. And in the domain name we have is of two parts. You can, for this particular example, right? So the domain name is divided into two. The first one represents the name of the organization. So if you work in an organization or you're a student, the first thing that you see there represents the name of the company or the institution. Now it's separated by dot. Now this .com is now the top level domain. All right. Now let's go to the next slide. Now here is the email etiquette. Now, to improve the impact of your messages and avoid trouble in future when you're using email, or those who are already using emails, to avoid trouble in future, there are few unwritten rules called netiquette. Now, netiquette is networking etiquette. Okay, so when you want to write an email, the first thing you need to do is clearly summarize your messages in a subject line. Okay, summarize your messages in a subject line. I will demonstrate this even better practically. Now, the second point here is keep your messages short and focused. Short and focused. Okay, recipients tend to ignore long messages. Yes, it happens to me. If you send me an email and it's that long, I'm just gonna keep it when I have the time. In some cases, some people would ignore it. Okay, so when you're sending an email, make it short, go straight to the point. Good. So now we have the third point that I have here is do not write in capital letters. Do not write in capital letters. Now, capital letters are used for emphasis, okay, and are considered equivalent to shouting. Now, if you use a capital letter, now this is where if you go back to the previous slides that I did talk about, I said email can be misunderstood. Now, for you writing the mail, you might say you want to use capital letters so the person would see what you're writing. Now, the person receives it and misunderstands the whole thing that you're probably shouting at him or her. All right, so that is why we say here, do not write in capital letters. Now, these are the reasons. It is used for emphasis. You can put just a few sentence or phrase just to emphasize something. It's equivalent to shouting, all right, and it is difficult to read. If you use capital letter in the body of your email messages, it is difficult to read. Trust me, it is difficult to read, and someone may not read your letter, okay, your email, when you send them, if you use all capitals in your email message. Okay, so the next point here is do not write anything you would not say in public. This is very important. Now, the reason for this is it is easy for recipients to forward your messages to others, which could leave you in an embarrassing position if you have disclosed personal or confidential message or information. So whatever you cannot say in public, do not write it down. You rather wait until you speak to the person on the phone or you see the person face to face, because when it's forwarded, everybody sees what it is you've written and voila, that is it. Good. So that is email netiquette. The next point I have here is include your name at the bottom of the message. So this would be the signature aspect. Make sure when you're done writing your messages in the body of the message, include your name. Yours sincerely, best kind regards and all of that. Conclude your message and put your name, put the organization you're writing from. If you're not in an organization, just end it with your name. Good. Now we have the next point here. Do not use email to discuss confidential information. Now the reason again goes back to this other part where we say what do not write anything you would not say in public. Now the reason for this is somebody can just forward that message, okay, to other people and they will see what is there. So that's the main reason for don't discuss confidential information, because anybody can say it. All right, so we have the last point here. Do not forward virus horses and chain letters. Don't forward letters. Okay, now why is that? Horse emails are often sent from what appears to be a reliable source, which makes it difficult for the recipients to ignore or delete the message. Now, such messages suggest that the recipient delete an important file from their computer or forward the message to other people or click on the link that accompanies that message. Okay, so you need to be careful the kind of message you receive into your inbox. Be sure that you truly know where the source of the message. Okay, don't just assume, oh, I know this person, the name is Grafted, so it should be from Grafted. Be sure the link is, or yeah, the message truly comes from the person you suspect. Don't just forward things. Be sure of the links that you click, because you might just be harming your computer. All right. And when you forward to different people, if you're not sure of what you're forwarding, it also means that people you have forwarded those messages to can click and get their computer infected with viruses or damaged or hacked. All right, so these are some of the email etiquette or netiquette. Okay, so let's go to the next slide and see what we have. Now, the next one is requirements for emailing. If you want to start sending emails in future, you need to have an internet connection. Good. You need to have an internet connection. The next thing is you need an email client. Now, email client is an email software such as the Gmail, the Yahoo, the Outlook. So this email client allows you to create your email, receive and send messages to other people. And then you need an email address. Okay, so you try to pick up an email client that you would want to use, let's say Gmail. Okay, once you identify the email client you would like to use, you create your email address. So that is the requirement for you to send an email. The internet, the email client of your choice, and you create an email address. Okay, so here this is important. Anatomy of an email message. Okay, so when you get into your email software, let's say for Gmail, I'm going to show this practically later. We have different boxes there. So we have the to, okay, box. Now the to box contains the email address of the recipient. So that's what you put there. Now we have the CC. Right. So most people don't know what the CC stands for. So this is quite interesting to know that the CC represents carbon copy. So what is carbon copy? It contains the email addresses of other people not in the to field. This is optional. Now the CC, let's say for instance, you're sending an email to james@gmail.com. So you put James' email address in that field. Now when you have CC, now the email addresses that you're going to put here is so that they receive the same copy of emails that James is receiving. Okay, so you can put up to 10 or more than, let me use the word, more than 2 email addresses here. Okay, so the next one field there that you would normally find in an email client is the BCC. Now the BCC stands for blind carbon copy. The blind carbon copy, right, contains email addresses of other people who receive copies of email, but their names and addresses are hidden from other recipients. The same message that you're sending out, okay, they will also receive it, but their names and email addresses are hidden from this people CC and to field. So in this case, I need to emphasize here. Now, this is why this also falls in that email netiquette. Okay, especially when you receive an email and it's been forwarded to quite a lot of people, right? When you want to reply to such an email, and you need to click on reply all. Okay, now make sure the body or the content of your email, your words are carefully selected, because you wouldn't know who will be receiving it, especially if the person is in that BCC. Okay, so whichever email that is placed in the BCC, the guys in the to field and CC would not see. So this is why it is important that you're careful in whatever you write in the body of your messages when you're sending it out, especially when you click on the reply all button. Now we have the subject. Okay, the subject contains the main topic of the message. I am going to illustrate this. This is really, really important because I quite oftentimes I get messages that people would rather, put the body of the message, the content itself of the message, they put it in the subject and send it out. So I think this is the main reason why I'm creating this video. All right, so here in the subject, it contains the main topic of the message, not the message itself, not the message itself. Now, it must be kept short and should give clue of what the message is all about. I'm going to illustrate this further on practically. So attachment, okay, contains names of electronic files that you're sending in your messages, okay, or you have included or you've attached into your message. Now the body of the message here, it contains the message itself. Why? What is it? Why do you want to contact this person? Okay, this is where you put it, the body of the message itself. And here the signature here is an email signature which can contain the name, the telephone, addresses, website, title, position of whoever that is sending it. So this is where you create the signature. Now the reason why you would like to create your signature in your email client is because it saves you time, as you do not want to retype this particular message all the time each time you want to send a message to someone. So most times people create email signature, so all they need to do is they just write the body of the message, all right, and make the attachments, write a subject, and include the person who should be receiving the message, and that will be it. Okay, so here it is. I brought you over to the email so we can do this practically. Now this is my inbox. I'll click on the compose button. Okay, so normally what you would see, let me make this in full screen. Okay. All right. So this is fine now. Right. So I'm going to take time to explain this particular section. Now, when you click the to field, like I did explain earlier, this is where you put the email of the person, the main recipient. Okay, you put the main recipient email address at the to field. Okay, now you would see that the next field here says subject. Now this is where you put the topic of the message, okay, which must be kept short and should give clue of what the message is all about. Now, if I click back to the to field, you would see where I have the CC. So you will need to initiate this. Some email clients would have all that lined up here with the fields. But for this particular one, you would see that you will need to initiate it. Okay, if I click on the CC, then I'll have the CC field. Now, the CC field is where you put email addresses of people you want to receive the copy of the message. Okay, now these email addresses are not in the to field. Now, I'll click to initiate the BCC. All right, you need to click on the BCC. Okay, so here you would now see that you'll notice that we now have 4 fields here. Okay, now the BCC, okay, when you put the email addresses here, the people or the recipient in to field and CC field would not see the names or the email addresses of those in the BCC field. Okay, so that is how to initiate that. Now we have the subject where you must put in the main topic of the message, and this must be kept short in a phrase. Okay, now this is where we have, this is called where you need to put the body. All right, the body of the message. You're not typing whatever it is you want, but take note, it has to be straight to the point. Straight to the point. Avoid using capital letters. Be sure that whatever language you're using, those are the language you truly want to use. Okay, so that's what happens there. And ensure once you finish writing your message, at the end of it, you end it properly. That is where we'll talk about the email signature. Email signature. You let the person know who the message is coming from. You put more information. For instance, you're a student, your student number, and the organization you're writing from, or you put your position, managerial position, whatever position it is you occupy in your organization. If you want to put your phone number and then you want the person to contact you, those are the things that you put in the ending part of your message, which you can also create as a signature. So that is it basically in this case. All right, now if you want to attach anything, a file, a folder, you click there to attach it. It takes you straight to your computer, and then you search for the file or folder that you want to attach and click on it. It gets attached. All right, so these things, you can insert a link into the body of your message. You can put emojis. Okay, now this one, you can insert a file from your Google Drive. Okay, and then you can insert a picture. You can insert a picture. Either you want to attach the picture, you want to put the picture in your email as an attachment, or you can insert it as a picture and then adjust the picture in the body of your message. All right, so once you finish putting all of this, you click on the send button. All right, everyone, I hope this helps you. If you learned one or two in this video, do not hesitate to drop a comment, to like, and to share